Hello, this is Mr. Dring from Fulford School. Today I only had half of my awesome Year 10 iMedia class due to a burst COVID bubble, so we voted on what to do, and we made some introduction videos for imaginary YouTube channels. So I chose a cheese chan. I absolutely love cheese. I don't know if there's a cheese chan, but if there is, I'd love to subscribe. So we made something in 3D, we modeled it, we put our own logo on top of it, and then we exported it and rendered it. So that's what we're going to try and do. This video is for anyone who missed that lesson or wants to go through at their own pace in the lesson. So you will need Blender. Any version after 2.8 will do. And we used Fireworks in school to make the logo, but I said that you can do just the same using Inkscape, which is free. So we started just by finding a picture that you can copy and paste into Inkscape. I think I've still got it copied. Maybe not. So I need a picture of cheese. Come on, what's going on? There we go. Let's copy that picture. Put it into Inkscape. Inkscape is great for vector images. I use it a lot for logos and it's completely free. You can put some text on, drag a text box, and for cheese chan, you can set the alignment to be centered. I'll make it a bit bigger. You need to make sure that you leave enough space around the edge of your text. I'm going to put mine on a circle, like a spinning coin, a bit like this. So you need to make sure there's enough space around the text to make it work. I'll go for yellow with fill and stroke. Let's see, stroke paint, a solid outline, maybe a little bit thinner. Let's see, something like that. That will do. Once you've got it, you select everything you want to export and then export to a PNG. I'm going to go for the selection and choose where to export it. I'm going to make a folder in here to save all of the images. Here we go, and I'll save it as logo.png. Okay, so that's the logo created. You can take some time to make something that you're proud of, an actual channel that you want to launch, or just a little bit of fun. Then in Blender, we'll start with the geometry. So just click away from the splash screen. Quick reminder of Blender, if you push your mouse wheel in that you use for scrolling as a button, if you push that in, you can pan, you can look around. If you hold down Shift and then push your mouse wheel in, you can look around and move around the camera. If you hold down Control and move your mouse wheel, then you can kind of zoom in and out, or move the camera in and out, or just scroll your mouse wheel to something very similar. Alt and mouse wheel is quite helpful. Like, it just moves to the closest, like, top, down, left or right view, which is quite helpful. Or you can use this kind of tool at the top if you don't like remembering the keyboard shortcuts. Okay, we want to get rid of this default cube. I'll just start again because I don't know which orientation I'm in. X to delete, Shift A to add, and we added a cylinder in the lesson. To squish it into a coin shape, S to scale, and then if you move your mouse towards the middle of the screen, it gets smaller. If you press Z and then let go, you're only squishing in the Z direction. So I want to make it kind of coin shaped, and then click over here. Next job is to flip it so it's standing up. So R for rotate, but don't click, just press X for the X-axis, 90 enter to rotate it by 90 degrees. Okay, so that's the coin. I will G to grab, Z to grab it on the Z-axis, and then click. So that's kind of stood above the ground plane. And I'd like to put in a ground plane so we can have some shadows. Shift A to add a plane mesh, S to scale, make it nice and big, and there we go. Okay, so that's the geometry. Now we need to apply the textures to this geometry. Oh, in fact, you can see a sharp flat edges. If we left click to select this, right click and shade smooth, then you won't see those sharp edges around the edge. Okay, make sure that you have your coin selected and then go to UV editing. Now we want to try and splat a 2D image, the logo that we created, onto this 3D shape. To do that, we need to open the image So I saved it in this folder. Oops, paste it at the top. There we go, as logo.png. Scroll out with the mouse wheel. Okay, now I want to select this face here, but if I left click, it only selects one vertex at a time. There's 3 different things that you can select in Blender. There's a vertex, a point in 3D space, and to do that you press 1 on the keyboard. Or you can select edges. I just press 2 on the keyboard and you can select edges, which are like lines between vertices. Or if you press 3 on your keyboard, you can select what we want to select, which is the faces. So that's just 3. So now we've got this selected. In Blender, the thing that you control with the keyboard is the part of the screen that your mouse is over. So I'm going to move my mouse over here first, press A to select this, G to grab it, move it into the middle of the logo, S to scale, X to only scale it in the X axis. Oh gosh, it's really slow. What's going on? G to grab it into the middle, S to make it big enough. We don't want to go off the edge of the logo, but we should be able to fit in all of the text. There we go, click when you're happy. Don't worry that you can't see it yet on here, we'll sort that out in a bit. I'm going to push my mouse wheel in, left click to select this one and do the same process. So A to select, G to grab, SX to make it more circular, S to make it a bit bigger. Great, it doesn't have to perfectly match the other side. But then what we want to do for all of the others, I'm just going to make all of those yellow, but they can be any part of your image that's all the same color. You could try and select all of them individually, but it'll take you quite a long time. So if you select one of the sides, shift and select the other side, so you've got both of them selected, then you should be able to invert the selection. So we've got the opposite part selected. So that's Control I to invert the selection and just get the ones around the edge. That means if you press A to select these, S to scale and make them nice and small, and then plop them on a part of the screen that's all the same color. We've done the UV unwrapping now. We might have to fix it in a little bit, we'll see. Back to layout. Now we want to be able to see those textures. So first of all, we'll go to the rendered mode. If your graphics card isn't up to it, then you might have to go to just the viewport shading, the textured mode over here. But you will see the shadows much better on the rendered version over here. Okay, so to make the textures appear, we need to go to the radioactive blob, the materials tab down here. Add a new material, click the little blob next to the base color and add a image texture. So that image texture is going to be the logo that you've created. So we'll click on the down arrow. We've already imported it into Blender, so it's already there. And then in a second or two, you should be able to see the logo on here. So it's worked perfectly that side, but on this side, it's back to front. Sorry, I've got a dodgy mouse wheel on this mouse that I'm using for this video. There we go. So to fix that, we'll go back to UV editing. I have to scroll down here to be able to see what's going on, and it's that side that's broken. So we have got a circle, but it's in the wrong orientation. I'm going to press S and X to scale it in the X-axis, and I'm going to keep going until it gets super thin and keep going beyond being super thin until it grows out in the other direction. And you should be able to see the texture on the right-hand side of my screen as it follows the UV unwrapping in real time. There we go, that should do it. All right, this time we're going to go into animation. Again, I want to see what it actually looks like. And for the animation, we added a little bit of lighting for this to work. So I'm going to kind of look through where the camera is at the moment. There's a light already in the scene, which I can't select at the moment because I'm in edit mode. So I need to go into object mode by pressing tab. Now I can get that light, delete it, press X. And I want it to be, I would like some spotlights. Shift A, light and spotlights, GZ to pull it upwards. On the light tab over here, we can make the power of that spotlight. I've gone for a kilowatt, 1000 watts. Maybe make it soft around the edges. And I'm going to move it G, Y forwards a little bit, R to rotate. There we go, just so we get some more interesting shadows. And then duplicate it, Shift D along the X axis, so we've got two lights. You can change the color of them, you can rotate them, you can even animate the lights so that they do whatever you want. I'm going to change the colors of the two lights so they're slightly different to each other. There we go. So the last thing we need to do is animate them to make them move. So for this, in the animation workspace, you have the camera view over here. So that's what it's going to look like when it's rendered. You've got your 3D workspace, so you can see it from any angle, and you've got the timeline. The timeline works in frames, and you've got 24 frames per second. So I would like it to spin round for 1 second, and then spin round back again for another second. To do that, I need to select the coin logo-y thing, insert a keyframe on frame 1, so I pressed I there, and I'm going to remember its location and rotation. And then we get some blobs on here. If you ever get it wrong, you can just left click on here and X to delete them. Remember that your mouse has to be over the part of the screen that you want to control with the keyboard. So I've remembered its rotation here. Let's R to rotate, Z to rotate around the Z axis, 180 to rotate by 100. Oh dear, sorry, you need to move on to the next frame first. So I'll go to frame 24, which is 1 second in. So you choose your frame first and then you change it. RZ 180, enter. I to insert location and rotation. Well, actually, it's just the rotation that's changing for me, so I could have just done rotation there. And then let's move on another second, 48. And then let's rotate back round again. RZ 180. Let's just go for rotation this time. And if you put those keyframes in, Blender will do the hard work, and every other frame, it will just kind of put the intermediate frames in. You can now press play to see your animation, but once you get to the end, it's just going to stay on that final frame. So I'll make my animation finish on frame 48, so that it should now just loop all the way through from start to finish. And you want your animation to be nice and smooth, so you can loop it as many times as you like. Great. The last thing I'll do is get rid of the grey background and replace it with black. So in the world view, I'll change the strength of the light down to 0, so that you can only see the lights that we've got here. Now you want to be careful that you can see what's going on, like the spots here don't really illuminate what we've got in the scene, so you might want to move the lights or add the lights or change the lights. Let's G, Y, can we move them to the side so we can see a little bit more? I don't really know. Let's see, what's it like a little bit further on? It'll do as an example. So you can press F12 to render one frame, but you want to export the whole thing. Dear, that's not centered very well, is it? So let's zoom in. If you want to change the camera, perhaps the easiest way is to align the view to what you want. Press F3 to search, and then I just searched for camera here. So you can go align active camera to view. Or you can select the outside of the camera on here. F3, search for fly mode, and then you can move your mouse to make it show the exact part that you want. That'll do. Okay, so to render, you need to go to the kind of print tab, the scene tab. Make sure that you're not exporting individual PNG files. You want to export FFmpeg. The file format we're familiar with for video in iMedia is MP4, so change the encoding to MP4. Choose where you're going to export your video to, and then I think you're ready. You can change the size if you want to, but if you go render and render animation, it will take a little while because it has to do each frame individually, and then it has to put them all into a video. So I'll pause this, it'll go on in the background, and then when you're ready, you should have a little animated sequence like the one I showed at the start. that you can use just for fun. I'd love to see what you create, so let me know if you actually start up a YouTube channel based on this branding, or if you start making a living creating animated sequences for other people's YouTube channels. Hope this has been a bit of fun. Have a really good weekend. Bye bye.